Know your enemy is good advice in war and entomology. As we'll see, understanding pest ecology is crucial if management exploits specific assumptions about what pests do. Now, I'm going to talk about historic pests called corn rootworm beetles. Known since the 19th century, both northern and western corn rootworms have been pests for over 100 years. Now, very crucially, corn rootworm biology depends on corn. Females historically laid eggs only in cornfields. When those eggs hatched the next summer, the tiny larvae had to feed on nearby corn roots or else they died. Now, Stephen Forbes studied their biology. He realized that if corn wasn't grown in the same field every year, corn rootworm populations could not build up. Annual crop rotation with another crop was an obvious solution. Now, Forbes also understood rootworms. Crop rotation exploited fundamental rootworm biology. His willingness to pay attention and think like a rootworm made this success possible. Now, however, human hunger for corn assured that pest rootworms wouldn't go hungry. Then as now, growing some continuous corn made economic sense, despite the threats that rotation could have prevented. However, rotation was not bulletproof. In 1932, it failed to control some northern corn rootworms. Natural selection reared its ugly head. A one-year delay in egg hatch allowed them to wait in the cornfield until corn was grown again. Now, insecticides came to the rescue after World War II. Some people believed their use would let us forget about pest biology entirely. Natural selection again reared its ugly head, and insecticide-resistant rootworms were appearing in Nebraska by 1959. Now, in the decade after the Western entered Illinois in '64, pest management that protected both crops and the environment became popular, and crop rotation was fashionable again. Alas, natural selection reared its ugly head again. The Western devastated rotated corn by '95. Through careful study, Eli Levine knew that rotation resistance involved a change in egg-laying behavior. Now, when I joined the survey in 1996, I searched both high and low for clues to what was going on with rotation-resistant Westerns. I, too, had to learn how to think like a rootworm. What I learned was that this was a movement problem. Staying in rotated corn to lay eggs doomed your offspring to hatch in soybeans next year. Entering soybeans to lay eggs put them where corn would be. Now, crop rotation selected for movement between both crops, and special enzymes protected resistant beetles from toxic soybean defenses so they could feed, lay eggs, and escape back to corn. The spread of resistance increased insecticide use, though, as stricken farmers protected both continuous and rotated corn. New hybrids engineered to produce toxins that killed only rootworm larvae promised some relief. To slow the potential for resistance, the hybrids expressing a larva-killing toxin from Bacillus thuringiensis would be grown near non-BT refuges to promote mating between resistant beetles and susceptible refuge beetles. The strategy of using refuges to delay resistance assumes that refuge males move into BT corn to mate with resistant females. For years, I've watched to see if the beetles do what we expect. What I found, along with the help of my assistants, is that after we observed when and where Westerns moved and mated in refuge and BT corn, is that while everyone assumed that if you planted refuge rootworms would do what they were supposed to do, what we have learned is that in reality, real behavior fails to match our assumptions. Refuges yield many mating beetles, but mixing with BT beetles is poor. Refuges were conceived using static assumptions about biology, but real beetles are dynamic. The use of increasingly specific management tools like BT corn demands greater sophistication in our biological understanding. The only safe assumption about management is that it is always vulnerable to resistance. Now, there's more to learn about this question, but rootworm resistance to BT is a fact in Illinois. If we hope to lessen the impact of this new gathering storm of resistance, it's time that we all start thinking like a rootworm again. Thanks.